What makes a good antagonist? Is it good wit and funny jokes?
It's cute that y'all think you're the heroes of this little adventure, but you're not. Welcome to Pandora, kiddos.
Maniacal laughter and devout minions? Or is it some twisted mix of the two?
I'm gonna kill you. You wanna prove me wrong? You wanna stop the greatness that is Handsome Jack? Well, come and get me.
In conventional narrative, a protagonist takes action for a goal, moving the plot along.
I want to be doing one thing, and one thing only. Killing Nazis.
It stands to reason an antagonist does the same. The difference being the job of an antagonist to work against a protagonist. It sounds simple, but even that's still a bit too broad.
Der Kerl im weißen Smoking.
Fucking shithead! Fucking fuck! Fuck you! Fucking shithead! Fuck! Fuck you!
There's a common misconception of antagonists being villains. Nothing to say an antagonist has to be objectively evil or sees themselves as evil. A villain would be somebody who'd rip the heart out of another person's chest, then eat it raw. But no one who does that thinks they're doing the right thing.
Now serve, as we all do.
It's clear early on in Part 1 Phantom Blood that Dio Brando is evil incarnate. He does evil things for the sake of being evil, and he takes pride in it. Just in one episode, we see him kick a dog, then burning the same dog in a furnace. An antagonist is only as good as its protagonist, and vice versa. Dio is the lowest brow of antagonists the same way Jonathan is the lowest brow of protagonist. Jonathan is this perfect gentleman, the flawless white knight. You could even call him boring for that reason. And the same goes for Dio. Both are polar extremes of morality with little grey area to spare. But there isn't really anything wrong with that. Sure, it makes the part just a bit more boring than the rest, but the narrative is still clear, coherent. Both characters play their roles simple as they are, and the story is told.
僕は父を、ジョースター家を守る!
Part 3 Stardust Crusaders tries to remedy this problem by throwing a myriad of colourful mercenaries and minions at our protagonist, all at the command of Dio, who's shrouded in an aura of mystery about his new secret ability. This effectively gives our main antagonist a greater ability to create resistance for the protagonist. The mystery villain trope is by no means a new narrative tool, but Hirohiko Araki does well enough at it to make Dio seem just a bit more complex. But the problem of Dio's sadism still remains, killing for the sake of killing and domination for the sake of pleasure. There's still little to no depth to his character.
Risotto. パッショーネを裏切ってただで済むと思ってんのか。
時間が惜しいのだがな。
ああああ
次は左目だ。右手と右目さえあれば作業に問題ない。
お前が一番よく知っているはずだ。裏切り者はボスから確実に消され。
Risotto Nero from Part 5 of Rampo Oreo, leader of La Squadra and a professional assassin and hitman. The premise for Risotto's character is clear from the get-go. He kills for a living and has no problem doing it. What differs Risotto from Dio is his attitude to the act of killing. Dio relishes in taking life. It's pleasure for him. For Risotto, it's a desk job. He's indifferent to it. There's no joy in his work, but not necessarily any contempt for it either. He knows what he's good at and expects to get paid for it. And that's a goal any audience can relate to.
メローネよ、この山いくらだったよ。2000万リラだな。安いなおい!
As ruthless as we see Risotto is at his job, he is still the leader of his team. He looks after each and every one of them. Camaraderie is the focus here, and again, something any audience can understand. His motivations lie in the fact that he wants his team to be paid a fair wage, a pursuit that cost the lives of 2 men. But even with that, he kept on with his mission, just as Giorno, the main protagonist of the part, would have. And it's here where Risotto really shines.
みんな、これっきりソルベとジェラートのことは忘れろ。
もう誰もボスの正体を探ろうなどとは思わなかった。ボスの娘がいる。その情報が飛び込んでくるまでは。
Going back to the idea of duality, Risotto is a perfect twisted version of Giorno. As Giorno is the center of his team's motivation, so is Risotto the one that keeps his team going. We see the two characters mirror each other not just in action, motivation, but even in theme. When faced with conflict, Giorno shows resolve in his goals, doing anything and everything to get what he wants. And we see Risotto do the same when he goes up against Diavolo.
それをやると思ったよ。そこに置いといたんだよ。さっきお前に右足を切断された失敗は反省して。
When we see Giorno and his team on screen, we want to root for them. They're the protagonists, the good guys doing the right thing. They start off following instructions from Diavolo to find his daughter. And when they're betrayed, they decide to turn the tables on him.
そのまま帰った方がいい。ブローのブチャラティ。その柱から出たら、お前は死ぬことになる。
But that's exactly what happens to Risotto and La Squadra. The Squadra is a hitman team, not just any hitman team. They work for Diavolo and Diavolo only. Any job they get is given to them by him, paid by him. It's easy to think that when your employer holds out on you, you put your foot down and ask for more. It's easy to think that you'll stand your ground when they push back. But Diavolo is far more ruthless than that. He doesn't just push back, he shoves. And he shoves back hard.
誰だろうと、私の永遠の絶頂を脅かす者は許さない。決して確実に消え去ってもらう。ブチャラティ、お前のトリッシュ護衛の任務はこれにて終了だ。
With 2 of his men slaughtered, he doesn't give up and give in, admitting defeat and serving Diavolo unquestioningly. Risotto waits for opportunity to strike back, just as we see Giorno do when he loses his teammates. When we see our antagonists act and react like our protagonists, it's hard not to see the two as the same. Throughout Rento Oreo, we see Giorno and Risotto on the same journey to figure out Diavolo's identity. Both they and their teams come close to death and dying, both sacrificing life and limb each step of the way, each one trying to come out on top because it's their conviction, their resolve, their endgame that's the one we're fighting for. At its crescendo, Risotto outsmarts, outmaneuvers, and still dies to the hands of Diavolo. Even then, he keeps his resolve and conviction, refusing to admit his defeat. Risotto is a deeper antagonist than Dio because he doesn't just move the plot, he is the plot. He is what the plot is about. The themes, the beliefs, the rhetoric, all playing out on screen. A good antagonist is the protagonist of their own story, and Risotto's is a tragic one at that.
一人では死なねえって言ってんだ。今度は俺が利用する番だ。エアロスミスを。 キングクリムゾン。時間を 0.5 秒だけ吹っ飛ばした。その時間内のこの世のものは全て消し飛び、残るのは 0.5 秒後の結果だけだ。弾丸がお前に命中するという結果だけが残る。ただリゾットネイロー、誇りは失わずに命を絶った。
But what if that's too unrealistic? A bit too bizarre for you? Maybe you need to change your beat. Whiplash stars Andrew Neiman, an aspiring drummer on his journey to become one of the greats. And his antagonist?
There's no fucking Mars bar down there. What are you looking at?
Terrence Fletcher, an old-school ball-buster mentor type. While both Fletcher and Risotto are great characters in their own right, Fletcher represents a less physical, more rhetorical take on a protagonist-antagonist relationship. Characters are a reflection of the world they live in. For Risotto, it's the criminal underworld. In Whiplash, it's the musical world, it's people, it's atmosphere, it's titans. For Andrew, Fletcher is that titan.
Instead of on pitch. Jackson, congratulations, you're fourth chair. Mets, why are you still sitting there? Get the fuck out!
The world of Whiplash pushes our characters together. They are forced to interact. There's conflict. The plot moves each time they push and pull. In the first half of Whiplash, the world our characters live in is ruled by Fletcher. He does what he wants, says what he wants, and always gets his way. To be the best, Andrew has to beat the best, and that means surpassing Fletcher. Fletcher embodies change, success, adversity, and he does all this both directly and indirectly, giving Andrew the choice to play better or rot in his old band, an external change. When he makes this choice, he questions his motivations, an internal change.
This is what's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to keep pursuing what I'm pursuing. And because I'm doing that, it's going to take up more and more of my time, and I'm not going to be able to spend as much time with you. And even when I do spend time with you, I'm going to be thinking about drumming. And I'm going to be thinking about jazz music and my charts and all that. And because of that, you're going to start to resent me. And you're going to tell me to ease up on the drumming, spend more time with you because you're not feeling important. And I'm not going to be able to do that. And really, I'm just going to start to resent you for even asking me to stop drumming. And we're just going to start to hate each other. And it's going to be ugly. And so for those reasons, I'd rather just, break it off clean.
This change inevitably comes at a cost when Andrew starts spiraling downwards. He's committed, obsessed, addicted to this new way of life his antagonist pushes him into. This crescendos when he makes his first debut as the band's lead drummer.
Okay, look, why don't you just tell Fletcher that I'm coming, you motherfucker!
It's here where our protagonist throws away all the principles, the morality, the rhetoric he's fought for up to that point, and decides to take the immoral action, marking his point of no return.
Shit! I'll fucking kill you! Get off me! Off me! Fuck off!
And the one to blame for all this?
Fuck you! Fuck you, Fletcher! Fuck you! Get off! Fuck! Piece of shit! Fuck you!
Fletcher antagonizes his students again and again and again throughout the entire movie, not just physically punishing them, but even verbally berating them down to the bone. Every comment he makes is personal, critical, sensitive, trying to push his players, to break them, to prove a point.
I'm upset.
Say it so the whole band can hear you.
I'm upset.
Louder!
I'm upset.
Louder!
I'm I'm upset!
You are a worthless, friendless, faggot-lipped little piece of shit whose mommy left daddy when she figured out he wasn't Eugene O'Neill, and who is now weeping and slobbering all over my drum set like a fucking 9-year-old girl. So for the final father-fucking time, say it louder!
I'm upset!
It's here that both our characters are at their lowest. Andrew loses all desire and motivation, completely abandoning the idea of being a drummer, a has-been of what he once was. But he doesn't get off the hook either. Just as Neiman gets kicked out of the band, Fletcher is kicked out of NASA, no longer the dominant character in the world of Whiplash.
Sean suffered from anxiety and depression. His mother claims this started during his time as Fletcher's student. Now, Casey's aren't wealthy, they don't want to file suit.
So, what do they want?
To make sure that Terrence Fletcher is never allowed to do this to another student.
But when we see Fletcher again, we find him playing a piano gig in a dive bar. Even here, he's on top of the world, enjoying himself, the protagonist of his own story. Even after losing everything, Fletcher is seemingly unfazed. He can't teach, but he keeps his enthusiasm for music. Again, he represents something Andrew wants but doesn't have. Even when they're both at their lowest, there's still an emphasis on how much more Andrew is worse off compared to Fletcher. His antagonism exists outside the plot, outside of dialogue, in subtext. With him brought back into the plot, we are given the same dilemma we had at the start of the movie. Andrew stagnates and Fletcher offers him a chance at a better life. Andrew again says yes, and we see him spiral upwards, this time as an equal.
I'm using the studio band playlist. You know, Caravan, Whiplash. I need somebody who really knows those charts. Hey, take the weekend, think about it.
At least that's what we're supposed to believe.
You think I'm fucking stupid?
What?
I know it was you.
It's at this point in most movies that the big final boss fight takes place. The hero takes a big leap and defeats the bad guy. Everyone goes home happy and the audience is left at just that. But in Whiplash, there is no world to save, no hostage to rescue, and no bomb to defuse. There's no immediate danger, there never was. There's just two people living their lives the way they think it should be lived, trying to convince the world to see it from their perspective, their point of view, their rhetoric. And when Fletcher finally understands Andrews, he has all the respect for him.
Now we're going to slow it down a little bit. I'm guessing most of you folks have heard of it.
Fletcher's arc goes from grueling mentor to a respectable equal. We get to see our antagonists change alongside our protagonists, and again we can't help but see the two as the same. Our antagonist feels human, he loves, he laughs, he changes. Good antagonists set the stage, they create the drama, the tension, the conflict, they keep the show running on both legs. Great antagonists make you think they are the show, that it's about them, that they are the ones you should be focusing on, the ones that deserve the attention, the praise, the spotlight. Great antagonists don't just immerse you into the story, they make you want to be immersed.